What is going on, everybody? The Original Mako back with some more Cult of the Lamb content. But before we get into that, be sure you check the links down below as always. You're going to see me play this game live on Twitch, do some crazy challenges. You can check out the Twitch link down there, and you can check out the member link down there while you're at it if you want to become a member, as you can see on screen. We have a few members right now, and I cannot thank them enough for the extra support. And it's unbelievable how much it helps the channel. There are 4 different tiers and some fun benefits you can get. So I'd really, really appreciate you checking that out if you're interested in helping support the channel a little bit more. So thanks. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into today's video where we're going to be talking about all of the doctrines in Cult of the Lamb and what the best ones are. Now, some of you may know, some of you may not, who knows. But when you get Commandment Stone Fragments, once you get 3 of them, you can unlock a new doctrine for your cult. Now, you can only get half of these. There are 5 categories: Afterlife, Work and Worship, Possessions, Law and Order, and Sustenance. And for each one of those, there are 4 tiers that you can unlock, and you can only unlock 1 from each tier. So you only get half of these. So it's important to know which ones are good, which ones are, well, I don't know if there's any that are really bad, but what the best ones are for you to be the most efficient. So I'm going to be talking about them, and I'm going to be doing basically like a head-to-head for each one and talking about which one I think is better. Now, it's going to be different for different people depending on what you're trying to do, but I'm just going to go off of my opinion, my experiences. Once again, I've had a chance to use pretty much all of these. I think there's maybe 1, 2, somewhere between like 1 and 3-ish that maybe I haven't before. But most of these I've had a chance to use and mess around with. So we're going to be going through each category here. So we're going to start with the Afterlife. Afterlife doctrines are centered around the result of losing your followers, whether by natural causes or otherwise. Upon completing all 4 tiers, you'll gain access to 2 traits, a ritual, and a new building. Great. So, Tier 1, the Belief in Sacrifice trait. All cult members gain the Belief in Sacrifice trait, plus 20 faith when another cult member is sacrificed. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Whoa. Make it a little easier to see. Whoa. Okay, here we go. That kind of helped. Anyway, plus 20 faith when another cult member is sacrificed, or the Believe in Afterlife, where all cult members gain the Belief in Afterlife trait, only lose minus 5 faith when a follower dies instead of minus 20. So, if you're just doing a normal playthrough, going through casual, whatever, having a good time, the Belief in Afterlife trait is going to be the way to go, in my opinion, because you are going to have followers that die. It's going to happen. Sometimes there's going to be multiple at once, multiple around the same time. And if that's the case, then let's say you're doing a crusade, you're doing your dungeon run, whatever, you just start the run, and a follower dies of sickness. Great. Another follower gets sick, dies, and all of a sudden, by the time you're back, you've lost all of your faith. There's people dissenting. Shit's hitting the fan. You got people running around nude, ripping their clothes off, screaming, kill the lamb, whatever. You're going to be in shambles. So having followers only lose 5 faith, I mean, that is so much less. What is that, 150% less-ish faith lost when a follower dies? And it's going to happen, so I think that one is the way to go. For Tier 2, you can either get the Ritual of Resurrection, which you perform a ritual that allows you to bring a dead follower back to life, or a Funeral, which performs a ritual allowing you to conduct a funeral for a recently passed follower to gain 20 faith. This one I think is very easy. Ritual of Resurrection. Because once again, you're going to have followers that die, and when you resurrect them, let's say you had one that died of old age. It was first follower you ever got. Real close, real tight-knit. You guys were friends, whatever. When you bring them back to life, they are no longer old anymore. They are young again. They're fresh. They're ready to take on the new challenges of their next life. Ready to just dedicate themselves to the cause once more. Great usage to be able to bring a follower who maybe died of old age right back to life. Also, if you have followers that have really beneficial traits on them and they die, you can now bring them back in a grand way. So I think the Ritual of Resurrection definitely is better than the Funeral. At tier 3, you can either have Respect Your Elders, where followers will receive +5 faith for every elder follower in the cult, or the Good Die Young. All cult members will gain the Good Die Young, +10 faith if an elder is sacrificed, murdered, or consumed, but lose -20 faith if an elder dies naturally. So this one's a little positive, plus minus, pros and cons type of deal on this side. So this one is interesting. I seemed to feel like I got the most use out of the Good Die Young, where once you get an elder follower in your trait, you just either sacrifice them, murder them, eat them, whatever. Do what you can to make sure they don't die naturally, so you don't lose 20 faith, because 20 faith could be a problem. And gaining faith whenever you sacrifice one is convenient. If you're staying on top of it, then, when you go out on crusade runs, you don't have to worry about a follower dying of old age because you're sacrificing, murdering, or eating them beforehand, so you're fine. Occasionally, the ritual cooldowns won't be short enough for you to get through all of them, so you might have one or two that die naturally, but there are some other ways to try to get around that as well. Respect Your Elders just doesn't, I don't think it's quite as good. And the more elders you have, the more chance you have to have like 5 followers die while you're on a crusade run, and then you come back and everything is in shambles. So I think the Good Die Young is just the better option. Tier 4, Return to the Earth unlocks the natural burial building. The corpses of the dead followers may return to the earth by becoming fertilizer. Or Grieve the Fallen unlocks the grave building. You gain 2 faith when followers grieve at the grave. Return to Earth is better here. 2 faith is not much, and yes, it can add up over time. But fertilizer is something that becomes more scarce for sure as the game goes on. Like, you need more and more of it, assuming you're farming a decent amount. And having more chances to gain fertilizer is super useful. So I think Return to the Earth is just a slightly better than Grieve the Fallen. Neither of them are like game changing, but I'd rather have the fertilizer. Next up, we move on to Work and Worship. Work and Worship doctrines are focused on exploiting your followers by increasing their devotion to you or working harder. Upon completing all 4 tiers, you'll gain access to a new trait, 2 rituals, and a follower command. First up, tier 1. So you can either have followers generate devotion 15% faster, or alt cult members will increase work speed by 15%. This one is very dependent on your playstyle, but if I'm doing it based on what I said, which is you're just trying to beat the game at a normal pace, go through, beat the game, you're playing crusades, and you're doing the stuff at building your colony, your cult colony, you're not doing one way more than the other. I think the faithful trait's better. Because generating devotion faster, devotion is how you unlock like the main portion of your things in the game. It's how you're going to be unlocking a lot of new buildings, a lot of new, just pretty much just ways to play with how many different upgrades there are. Devotion is the main currency, if you will, in the game, and being able to generate devotion 15% faster is super useful. Work speed is still very nice, but I think devotion is just slightly better. Tier 2, Inspire. Inspire a follower to significantly increase their loyalty, and it replaces the Bless action. Or Intimidate. Intimidate a follower to slightly increase their loyalty, as well as make them work 10% harder for 2 days. This replaces the Bless action. Inspire's better. Leveling up followers has a lot of good perks that comes with it. You get a commandment fragment. You get a commandment stone fragment. You get a better demon. So when you turn a follower into a demon, which I've talked about in a couple of other videos, the higher level they are with their loyalty, the better the demon is. So you get a better demon out of it. You get more. I forget the term used in game, but when you have a sermon, you get more in return from that follower. It's just, it helps out a lot more, I think, than the work speed increase. So kind of along the same Wavelength is the last one. I think the increasing of loyalty and leveling up is just better than, slightly increasing loyalty, but having them work harder. So Inspire, I think, is the best option here. Next up, the Glory of Construction. Perform a ritual that will immediately build all structures that are currently under construction, or perform a ritual that will temporarily increase devotion generation speed by 20% for 3 days. This one's not even close. Enlightenment is the way to go. The Glory of Construction is instantly completing buildings is not usually a very big deal. Most of them don't take that long, and the ones that do, if you're working on it with like 2-3 other followers, it's not really going to take very long. Compared to increased devotion generation speed by 20% for 3 days, that is a lot of extra devotion, which I just talked about being super important. So Ritual of Enlightenment, I think, is just significantly better. And then tier 4, Glory through Toil Ritual. Perform a ritual which allows your followers to work through 3 days and nights without getting tired, or perform a ritual at your temple declaring a day of rest. Your followers will not work and gain plus 80 faith. I think Toil through Toil Ritual is just better. Holy Day is not bad. If you come back and your whole tribe, your cult's in shambles and you need your faith back, you can just do that. But having followers work through the day and night for 3 days without getting tired, you get a lot of stuff done at the base, and you don't really have to worry about beds collapsing, any of that stuff. They can just fly, let it work. You get a lot more devotion because they're constantly praying day and night. I think the Glory through Toil Ritual is just a better option there. Next up, we have Possessions. Possessions doctrines are focused on receiving donations from your followers and having them take an interest in material items and buildings. Upon completing all 4 tiers, you'll get a new follower action, 2 new traits, and an unlock or in a ritual. Okay, so tier 1, Extort Tithes. Unlock the Extort Tithes follower action. You collect 1 coin from a follower once a day. Or the Bribe, which unlocks the Bribe action. You can bribe a follower with 3 coins to increase their loyalty. Extort Tithes, I think, is slightly better. Gold's not the biggest issue in the game, but occasionally it can be a little bit of a problem. So being able, if you have 20 followers, that's 20 coins you could get a day, which can help you build more buildings or unlock things that you need to unlock, whatever the case may be, as opposed to spending your money to increase loyalty slightly. So I think this one's just a better option. Tier 2, Belief in Materialism. You gain cult members will gain faith when building better sleeping quarters, or cult members will gain more faith when placing a decoration building. You're going to most likely, now once again, not everybody, but most likely you're going to be placing a lot more decoration buildings than upgrading your sleeping quarters. So more faith when placing a decoration building, I think, takes the cake here. Materialism isn't bad because I think upgrading the houses is not like the most high priority thing ever, but it is a really good thing to do. But I still think you're going to be placing a lot more decorations, so the False Idols trait is just better. Tier 3, we have Alms for the Poor. Perform a ritual which you distribute gold to all of your followers to increase their loyalty, and you get 10 faith. Or perform a ritual in which all of your followers donate coins to you. This one is, I've talked a lot about, loyalty's great, faith, all that, woohoo, yeah. No. Ritual of Enrichment is better. You need that money, you want that money, get that money from your followers. They are there to serve you. Let them serve you by donating their money to you. I think Enrichment is definitely better for that one. And then Tier 4, Sacral Architecture. All cult members will gain the trait when a new building is constructed. They get faith. Or all cult members will gain the trait where they get more faith when you deliver a sermon. This one's better. Sacral Architecture is definitely better. You're going to be building a lot of buildings. Every time you build a building, getting 5 faith back is pog. If you are super low on faith, then you can just construct a lot of small, cheap, inexpensive buildings and get some of that faith back pretty easily and pretty quickly. Whereas the Devotee trait is just once a day, you gain more faith. So I think the architecture one is for sure the better option between those two. Next up, we have law and order. Law and order doctrines are focused on keeping your followers in check, including the ability to remove disobedient followers through various rituals, marrying your followers, pitting them against one another in a Fight Club style arena, and much more. Tier 1, murder follower or ascend follower. Murder unlocks the ability to murder one of your followers. It's a pretty simple thing to do. Or you can get the Ascend follower, where you perform a ritual in which you can ascend a follower's spirit to a higher plane of existence, getting rid of them, but all of your followers gain loyalty. This one is kind of interesting. I think Ascend is the way to go here. You get more benefits out of it for the most part. Most of your followers are going to prefer the Ascension over the murder. And regardless of which one you choose, if you chose like the elder, you don't want to have any elders, then you can still ascend the elders as opposed to murdering them, and it counts as them being gone. So I think ascend followers is more beneficial to you as a leader of the cult. Tier 2, you can either have a ritualistic fight pit, perform a ritual in your temple in which 2 followers fight to the death, or perform a ritual at your temple so you can marry one of your followers and you gain a lot of faith. This one is not a huge swing either way, but I think ritualistic fight pit is better because it's another way to help get rid of the elderly, potentially. You're going to need almost as many options as possible, because if you took the other doctrine where your followers are happy when the elderly get sacrificed or eaten or killed, whatever, then you need a good amount of options. So that way, when you have 3 or 4 elderly at the same time, you're able to get rid of all of them, or at least most of them. So I think the fight pit is better for that. And gaining 30 faith is not a huge deal, but if you want to marry an axolotl, then by all means, feel free. I don't think this one's a huge deal either way. Tier 3, belief in original sin. All are born guilty. Reduced faith loss when putting a follower in jail who is not dissenting. So this gives a trait to your entire tribe, or your entire cult. I keep saying tribe. Entire cult. So if you put a follower in prison who's not dissenting, you just kind of wanted to throw him into prison for fun, then they're not going to get, followers aren't going to be that upset, because everybody's born guilty, so they can go to prison for whatever you want, really. Or you could get the belief in absolution, freedom above all else. Every day that begins without anyone in prison, gain plus 10 faith. Absolution is absolutely, see what I did there? The better option. In my couple of playthroughs, I have had one person dissent. One. If you're staying on top of it and keeping your faith up, you have nothing to worry about when it comes to a follower dissenting, so you don't really need to ever put anybody into prison. So you get just a free plus 10 faith at the start of every day with absolution, and I think it is just for sure the better option in this tier. Last but not least, we've got tier 4 here. You could either get the loyalty enforcer, where you perform a ritual in which you appoint a follower as your loyalty enforcer, tasked with patrolling the cult and raising the loyalty of your followers. Or the tax enforcer, where you appoint a follower as a tax enforcer who collects money from all other cult members. This one is very dependent on what you need. If you're kind of low on money at the moment, and you're like, oh, man, I really wish I had just extra money, tax enforcer is really good. Most of the time, I think loyalty enforcer is going to be slightly better, because you can have your loyalty enforcer raising the loyalty every single day, every single follower, and you don't have to do anything. It's just just passively doing it all on his own. So I think loyalty enforcer in most cases is better, but tax enforcer is still really good for money if you need money at the moment. So you can't really go wrong either way, but I think I still prefer loyalty enforcer. And last but not least, the last tier is sustenance here. Sustenance doctrines are focused on keeping your followers full and healthy. Upon completing all 4 tiers, you get a couple of new traits. a couple of new traits and ritual unlocks. Okay, so tier 1, you can either have the fast ritual or the feasting ritual. The fast ritual, you perform a ritual to declare a fast. Followers will not eat or be hungry for 3 days. Or feasting ritual, where you throw a grand feast and refill their hunger and gain plus 25 faith. So, here's what I'll say about this. I'm a little bit biased towards feast, but I don't actually think it's the better option. I love the idea of coming back from the crusade. Your followers are all, like hungry, starving, whatever, and you're just throw them a giant feast. Let's eat the blood of our enemies type of thing, and y'all get together, eat, and get some faith. But the fasting ritual allows you, let's say you can't make enough food, and that's part of why the followers are starving. Well, you can perform a fast, and followers don't need to eat, and they're not going to get hungry for 3 whole days. So you have time to go on a crusade and get more food. You have time to farm and get, more material or more food items to be able to cook. So it allows you more of a buffer to go get the items necessary to make sure your followers don't starve anytime soon. So I think ritual fast is just better. Next up at tier 2, we've got the Cannibal Trait. All cult members gain the trait where you get plus 5 faith when eating a meal made from follower meat. Or Grass Eater, no negative faith when a follower eats a meal made from grass. I think the Cannibal Trait's better. Like I said, you're going to have a lot of followers that die. You can turn them into meat, and after you turn them into meat, have the followers eat a nice hearty meal. You're going to get a decent amount of chances to do that. Grass Eater, you can get a good chunk of grass and make a lot of grass meals. However, grass can be used a little bit later for getting a lot of fertilizer, and it's the best way to farm fertilizer is with grass. So I would say you kind of want to have, oh nice, we're getting a nice ad here. I'd say you want to have as much grass as possible for when that inevitably happens. So I think the Cannibal Trait is better. Next up, at tier 3, we have the Ritual of the Harvest. Perform a ritual at your temple that causes all seeds to immediately be ready for harvest, or perform a ritual in which, for 2 days, it'll make special fish more likely to appear while fishing, and you will also catch double fish. Seeds do not take very long to grow in this game, like at all. Not at all. Now, Ritual of the Ocean Bounty, I didn't do a lot of fishing. I just did fishing for the one quest in the game that allows you to fish, or that needs you to fish. So this one is honestly, a complete toss-up. I don't think either one is better than the other. I think they're both pretty subpar, if we're being honest. So it's just kind of a pick and choose which one you think is better, or which one would be more beneficial to you at the moment. But I genuinely don't think one is much better than the other or more useful. I didn't use either of them very often. So last, but certainly not least, we've got tier 4, which is the Substances Encouraged, where alt cult members gain the Substances Encouraged trait, where you gain 20 faith when the brainwashing ritual is performed. And the Belief in Prohibition, where all cult members gain the Prohibitionist trait, increased work speed and devotion generation. Those are increased by 10%, but there's a 50% chance of followers becoming sick after the brainwashing ritual. Substances Encouraged is absolutely the way to go. So the brainwashing ritual basically means that for, I think it's 2 days, maybe it's 3 days, your cult members will be locked at maximum faith. They cannot lose faith. It's a ritual that you want to use basically off cooldown as much as possible. So I think the Substances Encouraged trait is better because you get faith when the brainwashing ritual is performed. So that way, when the brainwashing wears off, they're not all down in the dumps or whatever. And then the Belief in Prohibition, you get increased devotion generation and work speed, yeah. But if you're using the brainwashing ritual often, you're going to have a lot of followers that get sick. So I think you could definitely play off the Prohibition one if you're like, well, I'm just going to make sure I keep their faith up regardless, and I don't need to use this, use the brainwashing at all, then Prohibition is fantastic. But I think it's really useful and should be used a lot. So that's why I think Substances Encouraged is better. So there we have it. That is every doctrine tier and which ones I think are better. In terms of which order you should do them in, I think getting the first couple, or at least the first one, is Sustenance, because food can be a problem early. That one's super useful. And then getting to Loyalty Enforcer pretty quick is a good option. Work and Worship is just kind of convenience. I would get the first tier, but after that, it's once again more of a convenience thing. Faithful, though, is something you want to get pretty quick. So I think Sustenance is probably the first one, and then after that, maybe you get the Faithful from Work and Worship, and then you can start spamming through the Law and Order to get to your Loyalty Enforcer. But either way, those are my opinions on which doctrines are the best and which 20 you want to go with in the game. Obviously, every doctrine has its place and can be used in a good way, so they're all positive. But those are just my opinion on that's my opinion on what's better. So thank you guys for watching. Once again, be sure to check those links down below as always. Thank you guys so much for the support. Hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I love each and every one of your faces, and I will catch you all in the next video.